Welcome to Everyday Economics, the podcast that helps you learn about the economic world happening around you every day. I'm your host, Chris Krug, CEO of the 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan Franklin News Foundation. Everyday Economics is a production of America's Talking Network. You can subscribe to all of our podcasts at americastalking.com. To support Everyday Economics, please make a tax-deductible charitable contribution by clicking the link in the show description. We are recording this episode on Friday, August 2nd. Joining me as always, Dr. Orphe Divounguy, PhD economist and all-around good guy. Dr. O, you're on the road. You're in Las Vegas. You've been on the show circuit. Are you auditioning maybe to bring back some white tiger shows, or is there anything like in the near future that we need to share with the audience?
No. Yeah, I was out there doing an event, speaking at an event. But yeah, I think, listen, we should ask our listeners if they'd like to see the Everyday Economics podcast come to a town near them in the near future. What do you think?
Yeah, we should take the show on the road. We're even better looking in person. Hey, every Monday at thecentersquare.com, I look forward to your column with the insights of what's coming up, what's going on, things to look for, things to think about. And you can see that, of course, at thecentersquare.com, which is a project of the Franklin News Foundation. What's the preview? What's coming up?
Well, look, we saw the ISM manufacturing sector index show a contraction in the manufacturing sector this week. We saw the ISM services index also show a contraction in the services sector last month, and these two indicators are kind of leading indicators. I expect the ISM services to continue to remain in contraction territory this for July, and that's coming up next. And so all of that is indicating that the U.S. economy is slowing rapidly. We now have inflation's coming down. We now have a jobs report that's showing that the labor market has slowed. All of those factors ought to give Fed pause. They should start thinking about the labor market and the prospects of the U.S. economic growth more so than they do about inflation. And as the focus continues to shift towards labor market concerns, I expect rate cuts to start showing up before the end of the year. It turns out the markets were right. At first, they were maybe exaggerating the extent with which rate cuts were needed. Now, it turns out that 3 rate cuts is probably what we're going to get this year because the economy is slowing really fast. Now, in the last couple of days, we've seen the markets kind of overdo it a little bit again. We'll see. We'll see. We're starting to see the markets betting on a 50 basis points rate cut in September as opposed to a quarter point rate cut. We'll see if that will materialize. But ultimately, I think the balance, we're back to a kind of neutral labor market from the hot labor market that we had in 2021 and 2022, where basically quits were, you couldn't keep workers. Right now, workers are staying put. Hiring is slowed. The unemployment rate has gone up a little bit, and things are cooling down. I expect initial jobless claims to increase slightly next week. They were up this week to 249,000. We'll see if they're going to continue to stay at that level. By the way, we're getting closer to recession territory, right? If initial jobless claims remain at this level or tick higher, then some analysts might start to be concerned. Richmond Fed President Tom Barkin will speak. Tom has been, I would say slightly more hawkish. I expect him to kind of be stuck because on one hand, everybody's has been talking about policy remaining where it's at because the Fed didn't have enough confidence that inflation was returning to target. and that it would not reaccelerate after a rate cut, he's going to be pressed, and the language might change a little bit ahead of the September meeting.
Yeah. We're also, the only other thing that I saw on the calendar that was coming up that's I always find as someone interesting would be the consumer credit report. Like
Yes.
getting an idea of how much credit debt the people around the country are carrying. Any insight? Should that be a consideration right now? In the economy at all? I mean, I'm sure it will be, but to what degree is that something that does a factor like that come under consideration in your view?
I think it all matters, right? So if consumers are starting to feel squeezed, then they don't go out and spend, and if they don't go out and spend, the economy slows down. I think that in terms of consumer credit, we're probably going to see that it's on the lower end of the income distribution, that there's the most, that you see delinquency rates continue to tick higher in terms of car and auto loan delinquencies. In terms of consumer credit, loan growth in general, I think we're probably going to see loan growth increasing, not decreasing. I think we started to see it again, right? Financial conditions are probably going to continue to ease, and probably have already begun to ease a little bit. So, that's kind of my outlook. I think that the market is doing the job instead in the sense that financial conditions are easing, and that easing is helping the U.S. economy. And I think what I think is going to be interesting is what we see in the next inflation report. We're going to get CPI, I think, soon, in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And right, and I think that's going to be very interesting. I think that's where I'm going to be looking out for that, and we'll talk about it on the next show.
Yeah, we have some good stuff that's coming up this week. We're going to talk about the jobs report. We're going to very specifically, we're going to talk about the Fed rate conversation that Chairman Jerome Powell, the statements that he made this week, and we're also going to talk about what's going on in the housing market. We'll be back in short order with those episodes. But thanks for joining us today. For Orphe, Divounguy, this has been Chris Krug. Subscribe to Everyday Economics and dozens of other high-quality podcasts at americastalking.com.